Welcome to High Stakes. I'm your host, Tracey Devlyn. On this show, I chat with authors about the moments in their stories that change everything, what's at stake, what it costs, and why we can't look away. From thrillers to romance to sci-fi and beyond. Let's get to it. Joining me today is New York Times bestselling author Ellery Adams to talk about her new novel, Invasive Species. Welcome to the show, Ellery.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, so happy to have you here. It's always great to have another North Carolinian on the show.
Yay!
Yeah, is right. Well, besides adopting, I guess, North Carolina is your home state as I have. What else can you tell us about yourself?
I like to tell people that I was baked in the North and buttered in the South
I love it.
because I've actually been in the South much longer now than
Ah,
the North. I was there for 20 years and I've been here 35. So I
okay.
guess I'm either have two homes or no homes, depending on how you look at it. But yeah, I came into writing a little bit late as a profession in the sense that I was in my 30s, even though I had always wanted to do it since I was a kid. Those of you who are trying to write and get published, you know it is not an easy road
No.
often. We hear so many stories about people who have sold their first book and it went at auction and $1 million deals, and that doesn't happen very often. Most of us
Mhm.
are working all kinds of crazy jobs and getting hundreds of rejection letters and still persevering. So,
Yes.
I've had a lot of other jobs in addition to being a writer, from car salesman to text writer, technical writer to preschool child wrangler to middle school English teacher. So if you're thinking about writing, just hang in there. Just
Yeah.
it's the ones who don't quit are the ones who finally make it. So
I agree.
I was one of those people.
Perseverance.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah, I've always thought perseverance is one of the things that will keep you in the game with this particular, probably with a lot of careers, but with this one in particular, it seems very important.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, invasive species, it seems to me it's a bit of a departure from what you have written in the past or what you're known for, which I believe are cozy mysteries. Am I correct? Or
Yeah, I mean, for the
yeah,
most part, I've
yeah.
written cozy mysteries. I think that my current series, The Secret Book and Scone Society, has a lot of cozy elements, but I personally label it as a traditional mystery
Okay.
because I do break a few small cozy rules. So
Okay.
I like to let people know that ahead of time. There's going to be some gritty stuff in there. And yes, justice will be served at the end, but you may actually encounter a slightly tame curse or two. And so I feel like I've kind of been pushing the boundaries of
Yeah.
cozies as I've written more and aged more. And I always kind of wanted to write a really, not a darker book, but a book that was didn't really have any rules.
Hmm.
And I didn't really set out to pick a genre or anything like that. I knew that I wanted to weave together suburban drama because it's just fun. And I always like to write about women. Female relationships to me are absolutely fascinating. And I knew I wanted to stick with that topic. But I've always had a deep love of folklore and mythology, and I wanted to weave that in. And then I kind of have had so many restrictions on the level of violence I can show in mysteries, which has been fine with me. But I wanted to see if I could be a wee bit more violent in this book and how that would go. So when I sent it to my agent and we decided to go out on submission and see if anybody would buy it, it was kind of hard to explain what it was because it's
Mm.
it's it's like a rescue dog. It's like all these different breeds, and it's difficult to define.
Yeah, yeah. I when I saw on the marketing information from your publisher, they called it cozy horror, which
Mhm.
I had not even heard of that
You
subgenre
and me both,
before.
sister.
Okay, so I
When
think
they
you
sent
might
me
be
some of the
trend setting
graphics
here, so
for it, I
that's a
was like,
great
what is
thing.
that? Because it sounds like a contradiction, doesn't it?
It
I
does,
mean,
absolutely,
horror
yeah.
doesn't usually make people feel cozy. But the
Yeah.
interpretation I got is that basically many horror novels are full of teeth, right? And I guess cozy horror is a novel that has horror elements, but it also has a lot of heart. So the
Yeah.
things are balanced in a way that necessarily in some other subgenres of horror, they're not balanced. It all goes kind of tilts down to the dark, negative,
Okay. All
evil
right.
side. But
Oh, thank you for that because I wasn't quite
yeah.
sure, but that.
And I'm no expert, so I hope I'm saying that right
Yeah.
because I had your reaction. I was like, what's that?
Well, why don't you, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about what the book is about itself?
Absolutely.
Like the pitch,
So
the summary.
it's basically, to put it in other popular show terms and book terms, it's um, Desperate Housewives meets Stranger Things meets Cersei. So it's this small town on Long Island, which is where I'm from. It's a coastal town, and it basically focuses on the people living on one street. And the main focus of the book, again, we're going to focus on women, and it's set in 1982. And in 1982, things were really changing for women. They were entering into careers they had not previously done before. And also, they were getting an incredible amount of pressure to do it all. And this is actually
Mm.
an advertising campaign, especially in magazines, that was really targeting women. I've got this is a
Oh,
book cover. This is
isn't it
from
all?
the time
Yeah.
period. And this was a best-selling novel, or a nonfiction book. It was Having It All, Love, Success, Sex, Money. So women were getting this idea that yes, they could have careers, and yes, they could have families, and yes, they could be healthy, and yes, they could be fashionable, and yes, they could wear all the right makeup, and yes, their house could be in perfect order. Yes, they could still make home cooked meals and
Yeah.
satisfy their husbands in bed. So can you just already feel the pressure and the intensity? So this is really, the novel explores what
Yeah.
that does to the women on the street. And it's three friends. And then there's a housekeeper because I wanted somebody who was in a different social class. And then there's a woman who never comes out of her house, and her name is Mrs. Smith. So when things happen among the three friends that kind of threaten what they desire, Mrs. Smith becomes their scapegoat, but they don't realize that they do not have the weapons to handle this woman because she's not even human.
Yeah. It's such a good book. I hope folks will pick it up. The a lot of the characters in this story, they were very, I don't know, they were very unique and relatable, I thought. And but Mrs. Smith seemed like a very inspired character, and I was curious what maybe sparked the idea for her specifically.
Well, this is crazy to say, but the book is very autobiographical, and we had a Mrs. Smith at the end
Oh
of our
gosh.
street. She
Okay.
wasn't in a gray house, and it wasn't tall and imposing. It was actually kind of a squat white house, but her garden was pretty overrun and wild, and my brother and I were tasked with sorting it out. And she had a boarded up well in her yard. She had flat gravestones that were so old you couldn't read the names on there. It was like a lot of thorn bushes and weeds, and we found a ring. And we lived next to her with one empty lot in between for 14 years. I never saw her,
Oh my gosh,
which is
yeah.
very
Wow.
unusual. We all knew each other on the street. You know, her porch light went out on Halloween. I never saw her driving away from her house. It was like she was in there. We knew she was in there. We could feel her in there.
Yeah.
So I already had this kind of unknown person. I just needed to fill in what kind of creature she was going to be.
Uh-huh.
And that was really the biggest challenge of writing this novel, to come up with an original
Mm.
monster in these, by this time of, you know, life when it seems like most myths have kind of been covered. We've had
Yeah.
mythological retellings are really, really hot right now. They've been hot for
Yeah.
the last couple of years, and I
Yeah.
personally love them. I devour them all. But Medusa is a very famous monster, and she was taken, and I wanted to go back farther in time, back to something that was maybe older than Greek mythology, because I thought if she's really old, she's probably more powerful even than anybody who appears in Greek mythology.
Hmm.
So I ended up finding my monster of all places in the Bible. And
Oh,
in current versions of the Bible, her name doesn't even appear. You have to really go back to like 17th century versions of the Bible and 16th century versions, and her name is Lamia in the Bible.
okay.
And even older than that, and I've got a spooky picture to show you if I can dig it up here, was a Babylonian goddess who was the goddess of the mother of the oceans. And she's really quite fearsome looking. So you'll see
Oh
she's
gosh,
surrounded by
yeah.
snakes and dragons.
Yeah.
And the
That's
more that
such a
I
good
started
visual.
digging, yeah,
Yeah.
and look at her
Yeah.
face. I mean, you would not mess
Right.
with this woman.
No.
And this is actually a pre-Raphaelite painting of Lamia, and you can see how her lower body is starting to taper down into a
Yeah.
snake's tail.
Hmm.
So we're so used to stories about mermaids and sirens where they have fish tails, but in many cultures, there is a shape-shifting woman who devours humans who is associated with snakes or eels. And I thought it was crazy that from Japan to Africa to the Middle East to northern Russia, all of these
They all
cultures
have them.
had
Hmm.
a shape-shifting woman who was half human, but she
Yeah.
could come out of the water when she needed to. And basically, she was malicious. And I thought, oh my gosh, like no one's written about her yet.
Yeah.
So
No.
she is actually the grouping of a goddess or deity from all of these different cultures mashed into one.
Yeah. Yeah. And did these creatures that you mentioned that you used for inspiration, did they also have this 100-year kind of
Lifespan,
transformation?
no, that
Yeah,
I totally made that
that's
up as
yours.
a
Okay.
device or an excuse for her to have to hunt the kids in the
Yes.
neighborhood because I definitely wanted to have this idea. I think Stephen King does this so well, where you have these young teenager characters and they're going through a really tough time in their life anyway because they're young teenagers. What could be worse? And they see things kind of that the adults wouldn't see. Like they see the world through different eyes. And if they said to somebody, oh, I think that Mrs. Smith is a monster, no one's going to believe them. And the character in my story, Jill, is not reliable anyway because she's a storyteller. She inflates everything. She
Mm.
elaborates everything. This was definitely me as a child. You couldn't trust anything I said because I always spun it to be more interesting. So she's an unbelievable character, and the only one who's going to believe her is Una, who is her Icelandic housekeeper. And Iceland is steeped in so much
Yeah.
folklore, and she's kind of the oldest character in the book. She's been through it all, and in her mind, this is a possibility that yes, this woman could be very dangerous.
Yeah, no, it's great. And speaking of Stephen King, I think anybody who spends a little bit of time on your social media will have likely noticed that you're a fan of Mr. King's.
I
And
am. I definitely am. I think
so,
he's one of the greatest coming of age writers we've
yeah,
ever had. He gets the voice of that awkward teenage kid so well, and he makes us root for them no matter what they look like or what they've done wrong or how awkward they are. We always want to champion his kids.
yeah, yeah. Now, did being a fan of his, and I know he's done some other things besides horror now, but is that what kind of sparked the idea for this story? I know you said you were wanting to do something a little bit more grittier, fewer rules, but just being a fan and reading, more broadly that way, is that what kind of sparked it, or was there something very specific that sparked the idea for this story?
Um, I don't think, sorry, Mr. King, I think you're awesome, but probably not. I think that what I really wanted to do was write a story about growing up in this particular area. And then I read across so many genres, and I'm particularly fond of genre blends. I like that they break rules. I like that they pull in
Hmm.
a little fantasy or pull in a little thriller. And I just wanted to make a suspenseful story that kind of was weird. I mean, it is a weird book. It goes off the rails a little bit. And I wanted to have fun with it, and I really did. I loved every second of working on this book. I just love it. And it's not because it's based on, my childhood. That was probably the hardest part to write about because I have to tell my family, guys, I make you look really terrible in this book, and I'm sorry
Yeah,
because they're not like that. But it makes for better fiction if you villainize some of your family members. So yeah. So far, three of the five of them have read, or four of them have read it. So, and they're okay. We'll
that's
see about
great.
the last one.
Well, I did notice you put a little note in your author's note about that, to asking for their forgiveness, and that it was, completely based on everything. So that was great. But what I was gonna mention, you said you used the term weird when you were talking about this book, and what I love as a fellow author is that you found a home for this weird, quote unquote weird book, which I find that makes me very happy, that you can write a book like this totally from your heart, totally from your imagination, and that you found a home for it out there. And I think it's good, I think, for other writers to know that, if you're looking to do something a little different, a palate cleanser, if you've got this weird, idea to give it a go, and there's probably a home out there for it.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like when we follow our hearts with our stories and we don't think ahead of time, what would be the marketing strategies for this? I mean, yes, of course, if you go to query an agent, you need to have some kind of comps where you can say, this would be for fans of so and so and so and so and so and so. But now it's great because with there's a lot of weird girl lit out there. And there's a lot of cross genres, which gives us as writers freedom to say, well, I'm going to comp this to three books, are all from three different genres. And
Mm.
that's great. Then the publisher can decide which genre they want to push, and you guys can talk about it. But it just opens up more possibilities for those of you who are writing to just follow the story. Like, don't worry
Yeah.
where it's going to go, just follow it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on this show, we like to talk about the story's stakes. I always joke, love, death, and the fate of the realm are all high stakes in the story. But what I like to hear is your thoughts on what's personally at stake for your main characters. And you can concentrate
Yeah,
on one or
yeah,
the
and
other. You don't have to do
it's
all
different
all of
for
them.
all of
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
So, we'll start with the youngest. For Jill, what's at stake is really survival.
Hmm.
So, once she figures out that she and her friends are possible targets, I mean, it literally is going to be life or death. As far as the women on the street, they are really so focused on, for Natalie, she's become a real estate agent for the first time, having raised three kids, and she has to sell this difficult house. I mean, it is
Hmm.
not well maintained. It's bordering Mrs. Smith's property. There's these creepy woods back there. It smells of old dog. Um, she has 90 days to sell this house, or she's not going to be hired as a full-time real estate agent. And she wants this so badly. She wants to show that she can succeed as a career woman. She wants to have her own money. She wants autonomy. She wants agency over her time. So she doesn't care about anything else. And what's at stake for her is she has to go back to being, and this is what they called it then, a homemaker, and she
Hmm.
doesn't want to do that anymore. So it really means a lot to her. And she knows that, like, her husband isn't, he thinks of this as a hobby.
Hmm.
And that's another thing that I think women have had to deal with for a long time. If we choose a career that isn't making as much money as our partners, people will often be like, well, that's a hobby. Well, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Just because I
Yeah.
make less than you doesn't mean it's a hobby. And then Elaine has a very awkward teenage son, and she is planning this over the top bar mitzvah. And I did go to a few of those as a kid, where she's basically trying to buy her son's popularity. And, this is not something she's even asked her son if he wants. She's just decided
Yeah.
this is the answer to all of his problems. And she's going to railroad people until she gets her way. And then finally, we have Beth, who is really one of the only women on the street that doesn't have a child. And her infertility issues are really causing her pain.
Hmm.
And her marriage is the most important thing to her, and starting a family is the most important thing to her. So when her husband starts slipping away and maybe have fallen into Mrs. Smith's entrancement, um, everything she cares about, she could lose. So they're all super focused on getting their goals set, and they're targeting Mrs. Smith as their scapegoat. And for Mrs. Smith, if she doesn't get what she wants, which is immortality, she fades from existence, and she's the
Hmm.
last of her kind. So it would actually be kind of sad.
Yeah, yeah, it was kind of funny when you used the term Stranger Things earlier as a comp, and I loved that show. I thought that show was great, and it does have a Stranger Things vibe to it. And Mrs. Smith, there is she's because you get into her thoughts a lot, obviously you're in her head a lot in the book, and it is kind of sad that she's all alone. She has her children, but they only come out every once in a while. I won't say any more about that, but so yeah, I just you think about that kind of existence, and it sounds like you had a neighbor that had that kind of existence too, and it's a little sad to think about that there's no contact
Hmm.
there really, and yeah,
And
yeah.
in my mind, I've kind of explained my neighbor as probably someone who was agoraphobic, and how isolating that
Mm,
must have been. That really is the only way I can think of to explain how nobody ever saw her.
yeah, yeah.
But who knows? I'm probably just filling in gaps. And
Who
also, I
knows?
think that for me, like my favorite villains in any story are villains you can kind of understand their reasoning a little bit, even if it's terrible. Even if what they're
Hmm.
doing is horrible, you can think, I can see how they got there. I can
Yeah.
see what life did to them or circumstances did to them. And in
Hmm.
this case, Mrs. Smith relies on the ocean, and humans are destroying her habitat.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she kind of has a reason to hate us.
Exactly. All right. Well, we'll switch gears just a little bit as we end the interview here. What's one thing that readers might be surprised to learn about you?
Oh boy. That is an interesting one. Well, okay, this is absolutely so random that I'm going to throw this out there. So back when I was a school teacher, I taught sixth grade. This is in 1999, and The Phantom Menace was coming out in theaters. And they were having a radio contest in Raleigh, actually. And they were going to pay $1,000 to somebody who would legally change their name to Obi-Wan Kenobi. And my students sent in so many emails saying, pick our teacher. We want it to be her, that they finally did. And so I had to go to the courthouse dressed as a Jedi Knight to change my name to Obi-Wan Kenobi. And somewhere I have a license plate that proves it. I mean, a driver's license that proves it. I
Oh my
really have to dig
gosh.
that out. So that's
That is
a
hysterical.
crazy thing. And I remember one newspaper said, well, I hope you enjoy your 15 minutes of fame. And I thought, you know, I'm really hoping that comes with writing and not with dressing as a Jedi. So,
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's great. So you went and you changed your name legally, and I assume then you had to go back and change it.
I did. And the judge said, you
Okay.
have to keep this for 6 months because I don't want everybody coming in here and becoming like Chewbacca and Yoda because you did this.
Oh my gosh. I
Which
love
was
it.
fair. That was
That's
fair.
great. That's so cool that your students did that. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
And
we really had fun. I used to teach a Star Wars as modern mythology unit with them, so it just made sense.
well, and you telling me this story, as I said, went through your social media. I always do that to try and, come up with some fun things to talk about. But your social media, I can't remember what you called it now. Something about the book cover. Uh, sorry, I've lost the term now. But anyway, you would dress up. You did some dressing up for
Oh, where I do
different
model
books
the
and things.
cover.
Model the cover. That's what it
Yes,
was.
yes, I
Yes.
do.
So,
I like to
yeah.
dress up in costumes. I really wish I had an excuse to do that more often.
Oh, that looks like a lot of fun. I could see why your students loved you so much. That's great.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. I did love them too.
Well, before we go, can you share what's coming up next?
Oh, I'd love to. So in October, the 10th book in the Secret Book and Scone Society comes out on October 27th, and that's called The Liar's Book Club. And this is going to feature Sheldon's book club this time, not Nora's. And don't worry, I am never going to hurt Sheldon. I have been told very clearly that if anything happens to them, people know where I live.
There'll be a revolt.
There will be revenge. No, he's going to be
Yeah.
fine, but somebody in his book club is not.
Yeah.
And this is really going to be based around the storm that we got in September of last year, Helene, and what it did
Oh.
to Western North
Mm,
Carolina. And
yeah.
I don't normally follow things that happen in real life, but it was just impossible not to write about
Yeah.
this because it had such an impact on the whole part of the state. So
Yeah.
I'm going to write
Absolutely.
about that.
Oh.
And then I have recently turned in my next weird book, which we have a title for. It's going to be Friends in Dark Places. And this is
Oh.
also going to be set on Long Island, but out way at the end on a little part of land called Shelter Island, which has a very dark history. So it was a natural place to set it.
All right. And no connection to invasive species. It's a complete
No,
standalone.
totally new cast of characters.
Okay.
These are women in their 50, or they're just about turning 50. They are going to a college reunion and things are going to go very badly.
Okay. All right, great. All right. Well, folks, be sure to order your copy of Invasive Species today. You can learn more about Ellery by visiting her website at elleryadamsbooks.com, where you'll find all of her social media links there. Ellery, thank you so much for joining me. It
Thank you
was
so much. This was wonderful. I
oh,
appreciate it.
such a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for today's high stakes story. Follow the show so the next episode lands right in your feed. And if you enjoyed today's chat, a quick rating or review helps new listeners find us. Visit tracydevlyn.com/podcast for show notes and links to today's amazing guest and their fabulous book. High Stakes is a proud member of the Authors on the Air Global Radio Network. Thanks for listening. Until next time, enjoy the adventure, everyone.